Good afternoon, everyone. I know that Sandra has calls on the same day, so I'll go ahead and start, and then we'll switch over when she comes. Go ahead and call this meeting in the order. It's 12:34. Okay, so we're going to start off with a member roll call. I'll go ahead and start. Shalisa Williams is present.
Colin Bover, present.
Wanda Gilbert, present.
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. No, you go ahead.
Tolu Adewale, present.
Wanda Gilbert Coco, present via, what you call it, via what? Phone.
Oh, via Zoom or via telepresence?
Via
or...
Zoom. Yeah.
And I'm Jeff Dillman from Legal Aid of North Carolina. I'm not on the board, just a guest or visitor or whatever.
Okay, so if everyone, you got something to say, Travis?
Oh, no, I was going to say that's everyone. So the four are present, and the two that are not present are Sandra and I believe Eric is not here. Those are the two who are absent.
So if everyone can take a second to look over the minutes. It's not too much, it's really not much to really look over. Take a moment to look over the minutes, and then we can go ahead and move for the approval of it.
I'm not seeing the minutes.
So I know I know that Sandra had tasked Colin with minutes for October, and I feel like Colin sent them out immediately after the last meeting.
Yeah. Yeah, I sent out draft. Let me see if I can pull it.
Yeah, I was going to say, let me see if I can find those and forward them to everyone.
Cool. I just forwarded those.
Oh, perfect.
Until I did my leave just to
Everyone received them?
I have, yes.
Okay. So I'll give you another minute to just kind of glance over. I thought I was muted. I'm sorry, y'all.
Sounds like someone has some corrections. I don't know.
I don't have any. So we can go ahead. So I would like to call for the approval of the Fair Housing minutes from October meeting.
I second that.
So it has been moved properly seconded that we approve the minutes for the October meeting. And we'll move on forward with the agenda. I don't see Corey. So no city council liaison remarks. You have any remarks, Chavez?
Yeah, I'll be very brief with my remarks. Just a few things to update you all on. So I know that there was some email communication regarding the status of the secretary position for the board. And I know that that was something that Sandra had mentioned voting on today. I think that what my suggestion was going to be is that maybe you all table that and there's an opportunity for you to do an online vote. I think it would be beneficial if Eric was present to kind of be, part of that conversation. So with that said, definitely something that can be achieved between now and the next meeting, but just knowing that it might be beneficial to have some additional conversation. The next piece, and this is on the agenda, but I just want to highlight, there's a tentative date for the presentation of your work plan, which is December 7th. That is the date that is tentative right now for the presentation of the work plan. I saw what Colin had created for the work plan, and I'm working right now to kind of format that and, kind of create verbiage that is reflective of other work plans that the boards and commissions carry out. So giving some back history on the board and the scope, mission, vision, values, things of that nature. So really just formatting it so it's akin to the other work plans that boards and commissions present. But I will make sure that I schedule time to meet with Colin and with Sandra individually before we proceed with anything with the work plan. I'm sure that the community outreach team will talk about the successful event on Saturday. The next piece is December meeting. So if there are any conflicts that anyone has with the December meeting, this would be a great time to talk about it, just because I know that that does fall right before the holidays, and we know that folks go on vacation and things of that nature. The one thing that is coming up in December is Wake County is preparing to dedicate some ARPA funds specifically for affordable housing, and they have inquired about speaking with the board and coming before the board to share and to engage with you all. And I think that December would be, probably the next time that they could get all of you. So I'm certainly in communication with them to determine if there's a quick timeline on that communication. If there is, if it needs to be done before the third Wednesday in December, then maybe we'll set some time aside for certain representatives for the board to have conversation with them. However, I would love if they could speak with all of you, and if time permits, and it probably would be a good idea to hold the third the third Wednesday in December if possible for everyone. And then last but not least, I know that
Real quick, what was that organization?
Oh, it's Wake County. Yep.
Okay, Wake County.
Yeah, and they it was yesterday that they emailed us and had inquired, or maybe it was the day before. It was either Tuesday or Monday that they had reached out and said that they are focusing or redirecting some ARPA funding towards affordable housing, and they wanted to engage the Fair Housing Hearing Board, just kind of concerning your thoughts and ideas and concerns and things of that nature. So, yes. Third Wednesday in December, if we can hold it, if everyone's available, that would be great to maintain that meeting. But again, if they have a quicker turnaround, then, it might be where, board leadership might need to meet with them, maybe Jaleesa, Sandra, and the secretary, whomever that ends up being. So that is to be determined. But I think it would be best if the entire board can meet with them. And then last but not least, the Color of Law event is today at 1 o'clock. I know that the author of that book is hosting a conversation or, just an advocacy talk. And I think it might be beneficial for all of us to be able to attend because of how specific it is to Raleigh from my understanding of the event. But short of that, that's all I have, and I yield my time, and I appreciate everyone listening.
Travis, can you resend over the Color of Law email?
Yeah, absolutely. I will push that flyer out to everyone, because in the email I sent prior to the meeting, there's a flyer attached, but I will send the entire email that Sandra sent out. I can resend that right now.
Thank you. I put it in for the wrong date. I don't know why I put it in for the 19th, so definitely.
I believe that this is done through legal aid. You guys have had a few discussions on color of law, right?
Yeah, we had Richard Rothstein speak last year at some point, but I'm not sure about this event. If this is the Raleigh Regional Association of Realtors, I know they were bringing him. Is that the event?
Oh, okay.
Today?
I think that's the one I was talking about, Jeff. Let me relook at it, I'm sorry. So thank you so much for your remarks, Travis. Again, you said the work plan, the date was December 10th?
December 7th is the tentative date. So it's Tuesday the 7th. And yeah, like I shared, I'm working on just kind of tooling it, formatting and all of that. And then I'll make sure to have I probably will put some time on the leadership's calendar. So I know that Colin was instrumental in drafting it. So it'll likely be you, Sandra, and Colin that I take some time to meet with and just say, hey, what are thoughts and ideas? And then at that point, after you give that feedback, once it's complete, then we'll propose it to the entire board for review, and everyone will have a chance to read through it. And then at that point, you all will conduct a vote on it. It'll likely be a digital vote just because you don't have a meeting between now and the 7th. So it'll be a virtual vote, and maybe even there might be the opportunity to do that vote and the vote regarding secretary if that is the decision that's made, and we could do both in one vote.
Okay.
I think another point as well, I believe in the evening session, the council is taking up the discussion about the tiny homes, people trying to do the half lots or something like that. I'm not sure if they're seeking funding or if it's just a rezoning case, but we'll have probably a good idea to get ahead of that.
Thank you for that, Colin. Just a question, Colin, they're discussing that the same day that the tenant on the 7th?
Yeah, I think it's probably their evening meeting would be my guess, not the day, which is when we would be presenting, or at least we have in the past.
Okay, yeah, okay, right. Thank
One
you.
last thing, Shalisa, I'm sorry, I just thought about this. Sandra had mentioned also in conversation that she's had with Jack, really working to lock down a date for the conference in the spring, so they can identify speakers and begin to communicate with speakers. And I know that the date that I've heard is the 29th of April. So I think that she suggested conducting a vote for April 29th as the date. So if you wanted to propose that or put that up for vote at the end of this meeting, that certainly would be a good use of our time as well.
Yeah, I say that we go ahead and just vote that one off because we talked about that last time as well.
Yeah, all right. I'll do that, and I guess actually I'll do that down the agenda. So we're going to move on the agenda. Move ahead. We don't have an executive director report. Travis, would you like to report the stages that you all are as far as finding an executive director?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll be very brief. So per my understanding, that position has closed and there are interviews scheduled, I believe, starting either this week or next week. I know that the interview process of the overall umbrella that I would give is I know that the interview process is starting at the end of this month. So they anticipate having someone in by early next year. So early 2022, after the holidays of next month. That is my understanding of having an executive director rehired by the beginning of 2022.
Thank you for that. And unfortunately, Sandra is not here, so we do not have a chairman report. I guess we could open it for public comment. If anyone have any comments? No, I don't.
No public comment at this time.
Okay. Committee reports. So, community outreach. If anyone would like to give any feedback on the Wake County moratorium event that we hosted and storm supply giveaway.
Well, I will start with the Wake County moratorium eviction event we did that Talisa and I participated in. It was great. It was good to see the turnout. I know it was at least 100 that came. People were happy to see a live person there to be able to ask questions and answer their questions. And it was an opportunity. It was the first one, and there's most definitely room for growth there. Wanda Hunter did an amazing job. The county is going to have to step up in a lot of ways to make sure that people are getting, that the community and the people that attended are getting what they needed while they're there and after the fact. We attended the meeting on Monday night, and those who attended are not hearing back from the county. Many left. They took a list of, they wrote down questions and got the names for those who did not get all their answers. And people in the county supposed to have been responding back, and they have not gotten those responses back. So I feel bad for those people after putting in all that work. But I tell you, people were really, really happy though to get those supplies and to get a tenant rights book, and look forward to doing it again because it is so necessary. So yeah, thank you, Travis, for helping us out with that and turning that around and meeting my daughter there. And thank you, Chalisa, for being there. It was great. So, and then all of y'all were there Saturday, so you know how that went. I saw somebody that following Monday, Miss Graham, and she was like, that was good. That I don't know who thought of that, but that was so good. Thank y'all. She just went on and on for about 5 minutes about it. So I appreciate all of y'all. That was great. The community most definitely received that, and that was great. So.
Yeah, I agree, Wanda. It's always humbling to go into the community on Saturdays because you really get a chance to see how many persons are in need as far as who can get to the destination, who has access to the destination or to get the resources that they are in need for. So I do agree both events was very, very successful. And just to mention it again, I'm on top of you. Wanda Hunter, they did do a really, really good job, as well as Verna Best from the Crosby Garfield Center. Even the bags that they gave the kids with like essentials, toothbrushes, toothpaste, and it was really good toothbrushes actually. Just not only providing resources that they need, but also being intentional about what you are providing, what they were providing, which is always humbling, and I'm grateful to be a part of it. Although I do feel that the county could have did better, like with acclimating us to the space and just giving us the resources we need to be able to provide resources. Like, we didn't have a table, so I was working off like a dolly, which was very uncomfortable when you have a certain amount of people coming in, you having to pass stuff. Would have been more, easier if we did have a table set up for us to be able to. And other organizations that were there, they had limited resources as well. So it would have just been better if we continue collaborating with events like that, but on a more organizing level where everybody will be able to be comfortable to do what it is they're there to do. And Saturday, my legs still hurt from Saturday.
Really? I know I was tired.
Like,
But yeah, it was great. But yeah, shout out to Miss Vernon. I'm sorry I forgot that. And those were the snack. I forgot to say they gave snacks to the people who were waiting, because for some people, it was a 2 to 4 hour wait. So yeah, they were prepared with snacks for the adults, and also had candy and snacks for the kids. And then they also had pizza for us. So yeah, but their setup, the county setup, was not great, even though they knew we were coming. They had a list of who was coming, but they did not set it up for us.
Yeah,
so.
Right. So that would be the take back that I would say that we could do better, just especially when you're collaborating with different organizations, especially with city officials or events or different things. So I believe it was people from the city there, and I'm not really sure of the organizing upstairs where legal aid was at, but I did go up there, and it was just, it was a great amount of people who just needed the resources of legal aid and needed the questions answered. And like, I did my application back in April and August, and I haven't heard back from anyone, but very, very, very good. That was really good.
I heard a great thing about legal aid. Legal aid turned out, even what's his name? Gilbert, what's his first name? He came out. Legal aid came out like it was about 6 to 10 came out. And so Peter. I just remember Gilbert because that's his name. But yeah, legal aid did turn out, and they gave classes, and people were in great hopes, because some of them that was there Saturday, some of them was like, I have to go to court on Tuesday. I might be getting evicted on Tuesday. So I really need legal aid. And so they were happy that legal aid was there, and hoping that they not get evicted on Tuesday or within the 3 days or in the next 10 days. So they were very happy about that.
I agree. So thank you all to legal aid who assisted with that organizing as well. So we are going to move along. I lost my agenda, so I'm just looking for it. I got it. So we're gonna move on to old business and finalizing the work plan presentation. I do want to say, Colin, you did a good job with kind of organizing our thoughts and the things that we want to focus on, or not necessarily focus on, but to bring to the forefront, I guess, that we feel like can be attended to. So I guess we can have some.
Actually, Lisa, I was just going to add that, Colin did a great job of giving that framework. I think that, per my understanding, having delivered the work plan with the Human Relations Commission up until this point, having done that a couple of weeks back, I know the work plan, they want to see kind of, like you said, the focal areas, and then kind of like the actionable steps, like kind of what the work is. So I think that it's really just a matter at this point of kind of maybe identifying a handful of steps, formatting, and then, like I said, once I meet with probably the 3 of you, we'll submit it to everyone for review, make sure everyone's on board, and then hopefully, ideally, December 7th would be great. But if not, it's also understanding that we might be able to be flexible and go into next year if we need to. So.
So next is new business. I don't have any new business. You have anything for us, Travis? Anything, Jeff?
I think we just want to vote on the conference date for Jeff.
Yeah, and there's a couple of
his
things
mind at
about the
ease.
conference, but if there is time, and I understand people would like to get to the that other event, if I was actually under the impression that it was already agreed to have it on the 29th of April, and so if that is acceptable, we actually had reached out to a HUD official who's the I'm not sure if I'm going to get this exactly right, Deputy Principal Assistant Secretary of HUD for Fair Housing, Demetria McCain, who spoke several years ago at the conference. She's very good, has been a fair housing advocate for a number of years with an organization in Texas, and has now recently been appointed to this position at HUD. And so she could be a keynote speaker. Because she's a government official, she doesn't cost us anything, which is always a nice thing for the budget in terms of trying to balance the costs of the event. And so assuming that date works, she is available then on the 29th. And then we had some ideas for potential panels and wanted to just raise those, but I don't know if you want to talk about the date first or have any questions about Ms. McCain or anything.
Travis, do we ever officially vote on that or anything? I just want to make sure that's codified.
Great point. So I know that the date has not officially been voted on, and I know in the last meeting, Jack he mentioned some rough ideas. That was that meeting where I was actually transitioning into another meeting where I know that we went a little bit over on the last one, but I know that Ms. McCain's name was mentioned, and I know that that date of the 29th was mentioned, but to your point, Colin, no, none of it was officially voted on. But if we need to conduct an official vote, because you all have quorum, you could certainly do so at the last item where I know there are action items that need to be approved, and that could, both of those, her being the keynote speaker and the 29th as the date, could both be voted on today. Absolutely. And then in terms of the other event, Jeff, if we can take our time, that's just something that's good for folks to attend, because it's relevant to Raleigh, but yeah, this takes priority.
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion to vote on both of those, having the conference on the April 29th, as well as having Demetria McCain as our keynote.
A second.
Excellent. Okay, with the second, all in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Hi.
Okay, any opposed? Sweet, easy peasy.
Right, and then was there another part you did both of them with that one motion? Okay, great. So then I think Jack mentioned this last time, but we were trying to think of panels, and I think doing it with two major panels with several speakers. Hopefully one speaker on each panel who's sort of a Raleigh resident and sort of deals with one who's sort of more community activist focused, and one who might be more legally focused, just so you can sort of balance the panels. The two that we were thinking about, and just wanted to make sure that we were all in agreement, or if you had any other suggestions. One was to focus on sales discrimination, and that's not something I don't think we've ever done before. And there's been a couple of issues around sales discrimination that have been coming up recently. One is around appraisals. There's a lawsuit that got a lot of attention recently that was filed in Indiana, where a Black woman who was trying to sell her house had it appraised, and it was very low. And then so she had a friend of hers who was white get it appraised, and she took down all of her family pictures. She was Black, and so that it wasn't identifiable that an African American was living there, and it appraised for over 100,000 more, right? And so she was. And so appraisals can actually affect, people both being underappraised in a discriminatory manner or overappraised and being charged more in property taxes than they should be. So someone talking about maybe appraisal issues, and then about gentrification and policies to mitigate that as people are being pushed out of neighborhoods. sometimes due to increases in property taxes, sometimes other issues. So those were sort of two potential topics within the general issue of sales discrimination that we thought of for one panel. And then the other panel that we were thinking of, trying to think of things that we hadn't done recently, is something to sort of cover fair housing with showing how, where you live really matters, right? So how your neighborhood, how your zip code affects, the schools in the, education and transportation and, community amenities, whether there's, industrial or other pollution in that neighborhood, or whether there's parks and more, nicer amenities, right? And so one on sales discrimination, one on sort of, place matters or where you live matters, covering these issues of transportation, education, and related things.
Yes, you Wanda Gilbert Coker via Zoom wasn't it our last meeting, our last conference where the person spoke about where you live? It was so good. And or was it some other event we had?
So I think
and talking about the zip code.
Yeah, I think Lisa Rice, who was the keynote last year, spoke about that.
Yes,
And,
yes, yes.
And so we were, and so that was, I think she did it. She's great. I love her. But so something, focusing and if you have if members have other ideas of specific topics, I don't think we've ever done anything on education or transportation. So those were the two that we sort of initially thought about. But if there's other ideas, we want this to be, we do this jointly with you all. And so we want it to be something that everyone is giving input on and is excited about. So, so if you have, if you want to think about it, we could do stuff. We did ideally want to start contacting speakers for the panels, before the end of the year. And so, if possible, but
I would
no later than the beginning of next year, just to make sure we get people sort of locked in.
Yeah, I would say at least on the point of zip code. I mean, this is something that I would argue I'm fairly young, and I feel like that's something that I grew up with, like us actually coming to terms realistically that the easiest way to judge someone's economic status or socioeconomic status is frankly by the zip code that they've lived in. So I'm kind of curious if there's been any, I guess, new discoveries or anything that now that people have recognized that that's kind of the case. I don't know how long that's been in the discourse, but if there's even showing, as we see kind of the reversal from the flight from the city, and now we're seeing people kind of pour back into cities, and individuals that previously were in the cities being pushed out, like how is that changing over time? I feel like we've seen a drastic change there. And I would, as depressing as it sounds, I would like to see how we do see some of those changes. Neighborhoods that previously were considered maybe bad neighborhoods, how have those changed, and what indicators do we see around that? Are we seeing more parks being built in the inner city areas now that rich people are moving in there? Or is it simply just essentially just higher value properties are pouring in, and that's the only thing that's changing there? Are we seeing that schools are getting more funding, or even an aspect of donations, say for like PTAs and private schools and things along those lines, where individuals from the community are funding it to make up for lackluster funding that the state or county provides? Some of those points I think would be interesting to see.
Colin, when the lady came here and did the AI, she talked about that, how the reversal and how the funding is coming back downtown Raleigh. And she showed like 5 years ago when they did the AI 5 years ago versus the AI now, and what it looked like, and the poverty of 5 years ago and now how expensive the houses are, and the equity that's downtown now versus 5 years ago. So yeah, she talked about that then. So yeah, that would be um
Yeah, like,
a great.
if you could have someone, someone that comes in and says, hey, this city, or 10 years ago, this zip code used to be, primarily under AMI, and this is how it was zoned. Now it's double AMI, and we see more rezonings for restaurants or retail or something along those lines. And you start to see like that shift where, the city can say, oh, well, we're powerless to do this and this, and shape these people here. But it's like, really, like, you guys are changing the fabric of this whole environment. And now you're just saying, well, people come to us and ask us to do it, so we're doing it. With, maybe there's a thought that you could have changed this earlier by taking an initiative and actually raising these individuals up. Just a thought.
Oh, that's that would be really, really good information. Really, that would be really good information.
Another thought I had. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I feel like, this, like, how the city, or how most cities, I feel like, probably take this, is that they're on the back foot. They are but followers to the economic pressures that are happening, and that, they only bring up rezonings because someone brings it up to them. But really, that's sure, that's right, but like, that's kind of a lame excuse. What, can the city not propose to do rezonings? Can the UDO not show that we have a neighborhood here that is economically depressed, and we think that maybe the addition of more grocery stores, corner stores, in places that people can shop and do business would be beneficial? Kind of taking the excuse and flipping it to say, well, you do have planning, 10-year planning. Why can't you take what's happened that's made these places thrive and, think about doing that, but like, do it before people come in and make all the houses $500,000?
I'm thinking about some years ago, we took a trip to St. Louis, and what used to be a Black community that was thriving, they decided to bring a highway through. And when they bought the highway through, started doing that, the communities around it started suffering because it wiped out a lot of the businesses in the community. It was eminent domain, and it makes me think about what they're getting ready to do with the BRT. So when you say transportation, I think about that as well, having that conversation, because that's exactly what's getting ready to happen in Raleigh. So I think, if we have an opportunity, whether we do that, during the conference, or we do it later as a board. But yeah.
Yeah, for transportation, that was definitely one of the things that we were thinking about. And I live in Durham, and the Durham Freeway, for those of you who know it, went right through Hayti, which was a thriving Black community, and cut it in half and cut off most of the residential parts from downtown. And,
right.
And it just devastated the community. And it's still, on both sides of the freeway in that area, really economically depressed, where it had been a very thriving neighborhood. So that's definitely something that I think, in terms of transportation, that we haven't discussed at these conferences. The other one thing I just remembered is, we were thinking, and we can't do all of this, I think, but another idea around sort of the idea of place matters. There's been some research recently about sort of environment, like heat in different neighborhoods, and how in Black and Latino neighborhoods, they tend to be much hotter because there's less tree coverage and there's less other amenities. And what does that do to the quality of life there? And so that's another aspect of zip codes in place, that there's been some interesting research in the past couple of years. So I don't think we could do all of education, transportation, environment, and sort of all of these things, but those were sort of the ideas, and it sort of lets us mix together some new topics that we haven't presented on before, haven't had speakers on before.
Yeah.
So I think, we could, if we want to do something that's I would feel bad for the audience here. But if we were just trying to cover as much ground as possible, you know, we could put all that under the umbrella of, I mean, really, that's, I guess, what, like, I mean, structural racism. I'm trying to think of like a really elegant way to put it, but essentially in which, you know, a city or a power, the powers that be, the systematic, you know, aspects of what's happening is really being applied in a way that is damaging, you know, either specific communities by race or economic status. You know, and you can talk about education. So you could have we can bring someone in that's going to talk about, again, how, you know, maybe magnet schools, how those operate, how you see different, you know, maybe there's more private schools in certain zip codes that have higher AMI. Maybe those higher AMI places are toting the bill for a better education and objectively results in better education for those that live in those neighborhoods, and how people are more or less pushed out of that. Talk about how, you know, the state says, well, this is the cheapest way that we can build this highway. And somehow that's almost always through a thriving Black community. You know, it's still a little suspicious even nowadays. Even though we've like, well, known, you know, we've known that that's kind of what's happening. Even the point the point about heat, I recall that was really popping up when we had a lot of those deaths, I think last year from the heat wave, or early, was at some point, oh yeah, this summer there was a heat wave. People did go through that for multiple cities and find that, you know, essentially the poor areas do get hotter, like to the tune of 10 degrees hotter sometimes. And that literally can mean life or death, especially if you're talking about an area that is economically repressed and doesn't have access to utilities. So, I mean, we can even go farther from there and talk about utility discrimination, you know, environmental pollution. Someone even, when we were at the event on Saturday, casually mentioned that that was something that you see environmental racism in the like lack of trash services in certain areas, and that they essentially perpetuate the idea that a specific area is going to be dirtier because there's less trash pickup happening or less access to sanitation services in these areas. So, you know, we could just run all of it and pretty much just drag, you know, the system and say, look, guys, you are in control of all of this, and you're saying it's their fault. I don't know about that.
I have a question, Jeff, or I guess if anyone on the board know, do they have discussions, or maybe Jeff, I think that probably would be a better question for you. Like, do you know about discussions, or if communities have discussion, or have you heard of people even like addressing the AI or coming in to explain it, or like educate the community, or I guess like stakeholders on the findings of that document? Have you ever heard of anything like that?
I'm not aware of anything formal that's done. I mean, when they're conducting it, they're supposed to read, you know, the consultant or whoever conducts it, the city, usually they hire a consultant, is supposed to meet with various stakeholders. And so they meet with, you know, organizations and individuals. Whether, you know, I don't know of any sort of presentations done about the AI since it was adopted or finished, completed.
Yeah, they met with stakeholders while they were doing it. They had them in the Pathways building, and then they went to Cary and had, and I want to say Zeppelin. I attended Warren and Cary and Pathways.
Yeah, I'm aware of that. They have those meetings and with people while they are in the process of creating it. I was just curious to know if they had something like after, like the effects, like
yeah,
I don't know.
So one thing that was supposed to happen, and it was adopted as a rule by HUD during the Obama administration, and then it was suspended by Trump, and now it's getting back into place, is that after the AI is done, that information is supposed to be incorporated into what's called a consolidated plan, a con plan. And that document guides how a community is going to spend its HUD money, its CDBG money, its home money, its ESG money, its COC money, all the alphabet soup of HUD money. And so in theory, you know, the information that they learn from the AI should help guide the con plan. You know, some communities are probably better at doing that than others, and I'll leave it at that.
Thank you. That's exactly what I was.
Yeah. Yes, in our comp plan, but nobody holds the person accountable that's supposed to be doing it. And you know who we were talking about. So it's in our comms plan if you go back and look at it.
I mean, even, you know, I would even beg the question, is the comprehensive plan going to do enough? I feel like I know the answer before I even ask it, but yeah, I mean, because then it sounds like, Talisa, kind of I guess the route you're going is, could we do an educational panel on the AI to get people interested in pushing the instrument of change, or what ideally should be the instrument of change?
That's what I was thinking, like something like that, because I feel like it breaks down everything to me, like education, transportation, like it gives the information like on all of those things that we want to, that we see, you know, that's being affected by systemic racism, gentrification, and different things like that. So yeah, that's what I was pretty much like going for, because I thought that when I found out about it in the 2015 one, I was like, wow. And I didn't feel that none of the things were addressed within the years to come. And then the one they just released, 2020. And I, you know, as a citizen, to be able to go to the meetings, I guess as a stakeholder, but to see nothing being done to benefit the communities that's being discussed, this in distress, according to the document, is just like, you know, how could we utilize that to bring some action to, I guess we can save that conversation because we'll go all day.
In terms of then like constructing a panel, I always like having conflicting panels, to be honest. So something like, you know, not to bring too many HUD people in, but so, I mean, is anyone at HUD reading these? You know, whoever we submit those to, someone that reads them and is well steeped in, you know, what is happening around the country for that, figure out that or that process or who it is. And then if there's any groups, you know, the consultant groups that build these out, you know, let's see if we can find a good one that does that, and see what they have to say. Of just like, yeah, no, I mean, we're here to objectively judge it. And, you know, we pretty much send them the same report because the city doesn't do anything. And, you know, get to see again from, you know, their perspective too, where they're, you know, either saying the city's doing something, that specific city is legitimately doing something to try to solve this crisis, and potentially have someone from HUD kind of say if that's, you know, if that's actually showing up in any trends, or, you know, if the people, even the consultants, feel like they're helpless in helping all of this out, and essentially that they're just perpetuating a system that is failing.
Yeah.
I sort of doubt that we're going to be able to get someone from HUD who would sort of do what sort of along the lines of what you're thinking, Colin. And I to be honest, you know, for years, communities didn't even have to send their AI to HUD. They could just do it and then put it on a shelf and ignore it. So it was only starting about 10 or 12 years ago that they had to actually send it to HUD, that became a requirement. I think it was in 2005. Maybe it was later than that. But anyway, so it's only fairly recently. But I don't know if, you know, HUD has not been the most activist in terms of doing things. I'll just put it that way. and they're one of our big funders, right? So they do a lot of really important stuff around fair housing, but they don't have, I don't think, the staff that's enabled, that can do that. And then there's all sorts of political considerations, because part of HUD is designed to give out this money, CDBG and home and all that stuff. And then the fair housing part of HUD is very small. And so it doesn't, even if they had more staff, I don't know how effective that would be, but I'm trying to think of is it better to have, we could have a panel on the AI at the conference. In some ways, it's a somewhat technical issue. And so if we're gonna do it on that, I think I would probably recommend framing it not as AI, because that's, people don't know what that is. And even if you say analysis of impediments, people don't know what that is. And so I'd rather focus it on some of the, the specific issues, whether it's education or transportation or, trees and environment or whatever. The other thing that could be, we could talk about is doing some other additional event, right? A specific one about the AI, and have someone from the city, and maybe, if we wanted to get someone who was sort of that the idea of sort of contrast, or I don't know about conflict, but anyway, contrast is maybe getting someone, a consultant who writes them, but not who wrote the current, the Raleigh Wake one, but someone who's done that kind of work. And I know a few people who have done that, and can talk about, how can this be used by community groups and local, by the citizens, in a neighborhood or a city or whatever jurisdiction, to try to improve things, to try to really, hold the jurisdictions accountable for addressing those impediments. Because that's the whole point, is you identify impediments, then it's not just like, oh, look, those exist. We've got some things blocking it. You want to then remove them, or at least lessen them, right? And so maybe talking to someone who has identified ways to do that. And I know, there have been some lawsuits around the country. They're not a lot, because they're really hard to bring. But there are some, there's some potential things that we could do. I'm thinking of people who I know who've worked on these issues. I don't know if it's better to put that as part of the conference or to do it as a separate event. And I'm just raising that as something to think about.
I feel it should be separate. That's a lot right there.
Yeah. And I guess to your point, where if you do not feel like HUD is utilizing the AI, or I guess the whole point is that, Shalisa, you want us to, or you want this to like empower people to have them feel like, there's a place that you can, file your concerns once every 5 years, and ideally it gives you a benchmark of how the city is approaching it. If the people that are supposed to be reading this report, HUD, with enforcement power, are unable to execute on it, then we'd want to look into other ways in which we could, empower the citizens, like you said, Jeff. So maybe look at a panel of, are there community groups that have taken analysis of impediment points personally and just made it their mission to crush out that, that impediment? Have we seen, individuals file lawsuits that show, hey, this is something that was brought up in the analysis of impediment, and this is fundamentally discriminatory, executed by maybe a major developer or the city itself, or something along those lines, and kind of set it up of ways that we could, again, trying to get back to the point of empowering people, not inspire despair.
I feel it's a matter of accountability. And until those people are held accountable on the city level, we can have as many meetings, but until that power shift, and that changes, frankly, because this has been going on, for some many years, and people before us have been, complaining about the same thing. And it's about changing that was, there, that has the power.
Yeah. Again, we could always, the message can always be get out and vote. And that's a good one. But I mean, even taking Jeff's example of, let's say, less foliage coverage around specific areas because of trees. I mean, community gardening groups, people that just don't listen to the city and just plant whatever they want. I mean, that's at least an attempt to fix it. Sure, you need the city's money. It's ridiculous that they could plop a tree down anywhere, and that's something that takes 10 plus years of someone trying to make sure that city gardeners aren't destroying it. But I can at least see, at the very least, some interesting discussions being had around, let's take the city out of it in the places that we can, and let's try to figure out what we can do to help this. If transportation in specific neighborhoods is an issue, can we incentivize, this is like a stupid idea, but incentivize Uber to have cheaper rides in that area? Local community groups that have a van, are they able to like shuttle people at specific times and fill in the gap there for the city? Something like that. I'm not like trying to criticize your point as much as maybe we try to empower people to do what voting unfortunately doesn't help.
But the BRT is a huge thing that's going on now in this city, and I feel like that will bring a lot of people to the conference, as there's a lot of conversation to be had. So
yeah, well, even on that, if that's the case, I mean, we should, what is it, Wake Up Lake County? They're one of the primary groups that push that. I don't know which side they stand on.
they're the problem.
Oh, okay, yeah. But yeah, I mean, bringing in some of the groups that are advocating for that, for the BRT, or advocating for doing it in a way that isn't taking individual or taking land from people that are already at threat. That at the very least should be something that we push, not in the sense of like as a panel, but we should push that in the sense of having that information available for people that come to the conference and let them know what's happening in their neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess one thing, I mean, how about maybe in the next, like before the next meeting, which I think is the 15th, is that right, of December? Maybe we can try to get some more specific, I mean, we won't contact any speakers, but try to identify some particular speakers and what we think they might be able to speak on, and then bring those names to the next hearing board meeting, and then see what people think about that. Is that sort of, is that a good balance of people? Are we missing something? Do we not like these people, or think they're all great or whatever? But we can just try to bring some names, some specific names, and then we can sort of discuss that in a little bit more concrete way. I mean, it sounds like there's a lot of topics we talked about, and I think we can get a couple of good panels out of these issues that would really, I mean, educate me as well as all of us, and then whoever is going to be attending the conference. And if you all have any specific ideas or people that you want to raise, obviously you can raise it now or next week, next meeting, or just send me names as well, as we're trying to identify other folks who dealt with these issues. But does that sound like a good plan for sort of
Yes.
doing
Yes.
stuff? Okay. Great.
Yes,
Thank you.
excellent. It sounds excellent. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So, we've already approved and voted on our action items. Anyone have any comments? Any more comments, Travis? Tulu?
Nope.
I'm sure you all want to get on the other call, because I sure do. So we can, the time is 1:33. If we have nothing else to discuss, we can go ahead and.
The event is this Saturday.
Excuse me?
The event this Saturday. Reverend Briscoe's.
Oh, hold on.
Yeah,
And at the
Virgil's doing
20th,
a turkey feed this Saturday.
I hope there's some indoor something for me to do because it's gonna be cold.
Hold on.
That's a good point. Where is he doing this?
Over there off Dana Drive somewhere off of Capitol.
Lake Ridge Road.
Wanda, can you?
Yeah, I mean, I
you got
Yeah,
it?
I'll email it back out. Text it or email it back out. Sandra sent it to everybody.
Okay, I know. I need to look back through it. I ain't pull up everything that I needed. I just want to pull up.
Okay.
yeah, it's a fairly small spot, so we'll see.
It is.
I know how big of a party Reverend Brickle throws.
So Wanda, you go ahead and send it back out. I appreciate it. It's 1:35. I'm going to adjourn the meeting. So the meeting's adjourned. I appreciate everybody for attending. Thank you, Travis, Jeff, Colin, Tulu, Wanda.
Jaleesa, thank you. Thanks for leading us.
Yes. Have a good day.
Thank you all. Have a good day.
Bye.
Take care.
Mhm.
Thank you. Bye-bye.